Good morning, good afternoon. This is Jennifer Bagley, CEO of CEO Web Group, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about 2018 web design, development, and content trends to help set you up for success. So, thanks first for taking time out of your business to watch today's webinar and to spend a little time working on your business instead of in your business. In the environment we're in today, we have a huge change. For those of you that have owned websites over the past decade, I'm sure that you're familiar with different changes Google has instituted as far as its algorithm. And the most recent major change, so there's been hundreds of changes, obviously, but the last major change occurred in 2015 and 16. In the digital world, in our world, it was referred to as Mobilegeddon. But you guys probably received some kind of a notice and information from Google Webmaster stating that it was time to become compliant with the new requirements for a responsive website. And a responsive website is essentially taking a web design and coding it so that it has flexibility to shapeshift itself onto many different devices. It starts off in a full screen, and then you're able to shrink that website, maintain aspect ratio, and shrink that site down, and it's supposed to reformat itself so you don't have to squish your phone to try and see things on a screen better so that you can see all of the content on a website. And the requirement was so big that there were a lot of companies that either because their web agencies didn't talk to them about the change occurring, or possibly they didn't get notifications for some reasons. Maybe they didn't have access or ownership of their Google Webmaster account, but ultimately they ignored these requirements. So you had really big companies that owned a lot of real estate on Google. They were performing extremely well, that when the 2015 Mobilegeddon or mobile responsive requirements came out, they didn't know, or they kind of sat on their laurels and decided not to make the change. The result in that is essentially when their site was crawled and re-ranked, because Google does this in batches, they lost traction, and they lost a lot of traction in a really short amount of time. So for those who didn't move, who didn't adopt these new changes, saw a pretty significant change in their overall business if they were relying or depending on the internet and web searches in order to get their business. Now, it also created an extreme amount of opportunity for all of those companies who wanted to be able to stay in compliance, be able to meet the requirements of Google, and decided to take action when they needed to take it and to launch a mobile responsive website. So those companies had an opportunity during this change to essentially take over the position of someone who may have owned a first page position for a familiar search term or a popular search term in their particular city that they want to do business in. They got to take it over. So it was a really good opportunity for a bunch of companies as well. We're in that time again. 2017, Google started to, well, I should say 16 really, it started talking about a different version of responsive, where mobile devices would eventually become the priority over people searching on websites, or people searching on a computer. And that change has evolved into the new requirements, which is the 2017-18 mobile first requirement. You see, when Google makes a change, the consumer's evolution is what drives that change. When consumers evolve and adapt to new technologies and new search engines and devices such as AI devices like Google Home and Siri and Alexa, Google's requirements have to evolve with consumers. And those companies who adapt and adapt quickly win. They're the ones who come out on top. Ever since the onset of the mass mobile web, 2007 is when the first cell phones, smartphones really started coming out and being adopted. There's been a dynamic change in the way users search the web. It took 5 years for the smartphone and the tablet sales to outgrow PC sales. An additional 3 for mobile searches to literally dominate over PC and laptop searches. In response to the shift in user behavior, Google not only rolled out its mobile-friendly ranking update, but it also developed a new type of indexing to coexist alongside desktop indexing. Naturally, they called it a mobile index. Almost immediately, it was announced that mobile indexing would be given priority over desktop indexing, and the testing of the first mobile-first index officially began. In fact, in February of 2018, Google did its first sweep of a batch of websites, re-ranking them based on the mobile index instead of a PC or laptop search. So what does this mean? 2018 web strategies have evolved. In our company at CI Web Group, we've been planning for this for a year plus. I would probably say 2 years ago when mobile was responsive, we really changed the way we think about not only websites and their layout and their code and their design and content and presentation, but in addition to that, in overall marketing, because people are so local. This timeline, you notice, from 2007 to 2016, this is a pretty short timeline, and that's because as technology is evolving more rapid than just about anything, consumers' adoption rate of this technology and these new devices are also adopting, and therefore Google's keeping up. And as a business owner, we have to ask, will you? First, mobile first. We have to develop, optimize, and design for Google first in order to be able to reach people. The very consumers you want to reach, there's a gatekeeper, and that gatekeeper is Google. So we have to pay attention to what Google wants or what search engines want in order to even be able to reach real prospects, real consumers. Now, what's changed, what's huge today, is when you're designing a website, in the old advertising world, people would talk about creating buyer personas or target audiences and groups. And now what Google wants is you to design for human beings. Design for a person, a real person with real issues, real problems that they need answers to or somebody to solve. Design for them. Make it simple, make it clean, make it easy for them to get the information with their short amount of time. You see, all of us have a business that is not on the priority list. Everybody's priorities are really centered around what? Themselves, right? Even when it comes to you watching this video, I know it's difficult for you to take the time to watch this video, and my priorities are not necessarily your priorities. Same thing with whatever your business is taking to market. It's not necessarily the consumer's priority, but becomes important, and it's on a list. We've got to make it really, really easy for them because their lists are long. So we're going to talk a little bit about design. We're really going to focus on websites. I have a webinar coming up next couple weeks that's going to cover more of how big this mobile first changes and how it reaches into your social and search as far as SEO, as well as local listings, reviews and video and all these other things. But today we're just going to concentrate on websites. So these are things that are important for you to consider right now. And literally we've revamped our entire theme for the websites that we build to make sure that we're in compliance. So the unfortunate part about this, you could have launched a website 6 months ago, and does it need redone? Probably. So first, when it comes to the front end, design, it's also called a presentation layer. What does a consumer see when they get there? Here's some things to think about. First is geometric grid layouts. So you'll see I've kind of designed this PowerPoint to represent some of these things. Geometric grid layouts essentially means that we need to keep really clear containers for a website. So you're looking at essentially a rectangle, and that rectangle needs to be parsed into boxes. You may have a 100% box that stretches from left to right, or a 50-50 container where you have half on the left, half on the right, or you may have 3 containers side by side. a third, a third, a third. Or you may divide it by 1/3 and 2/3 that stretches across. This is called a geometric grid layout. So when you get really fancy and want to create a bunch of custom designs on a site, now's not the time to do that. We need this thing to be able to reshape itself, so rounded corners and customized layouts are really going to cause a problem. We need this to be in boxes, containers, these geometric grid layouts. Also, as I mentioned before, we need to design for humans, not personas and target groups anymore. We have to really identify what information is most important for them to see when they get to the site. Instantaneously, they need to know who you are, what you do, where you do it, how to reach you, what do other people think about you. Are they at the right place? And it has to be designed quickly so that there is no confusion. Oftentimes I ask people to tell me about their own website, what they see. And what they do is when they explain what their website says on the home page, they're actually telling more of a story of what they know about their business versus what their website says about their business, which creates an illusion of what the consumers will actually see when they get there. You're the subject matter expert for your business. So what you see is very different than what a consumer is going to see when they land there. If they land on a site and it doesn't immediately showcase the things that are most important to them, if you make them dig, search, dive into additional pages in order to find the core things they need, we're probably going to lose them. Definitely going to lose them in a mobile first environment. See, when people are on their mobile phones, their attention spans are much shorter. They type much faster. Their words or language is different when they're talking to their device than it is if they're typing into a PC. Another thing that's really important, and it kills a lot of people when it comes to design, they want to fill every single space on a website with stuff, when really modular white or blank space is really important. Think about the Apple website. It's not filled with clutter. It doesn't have content, information, and text everywhere on there. It's clean, crisp, geometric grid layouts with clear white space so you can draw attention to those things that are important. Something that's important in mobile first is also clean, simple UX versus UI. Old school developers and designers would focus on UI, which is user interface. And it's not an interface anymore. This presentation layer, what's most important is UX, which is user experience. How easy is it for them to get the information they need, trust your company, know that you can help them with their problem or their issue or the product or service they need, and that they can easily take actions without having to do too much digging. Another thing that's important is vivid and bright gradients. So I've done this on this one just to kind of give you an example. I haven't done a gradient, but a gradient would essentially start dark and it would transition to light. Now this is important for multiple reasons. One, because you're able to draw attention to information, not distract from the things that are important, but most important, gradients can be done in a design world with code instead of images. With code, they can say they want a pixel, one pixel, that is going to have a gradient attached to it, and it's literally like 2 lines or 1 line of code with a couple words in it, versus having this huge image that has to load behind something in order to be able to get that piece of content to render. So when you use things like gradients or colors that are hard colors, you don't have to use pictures, and those pictures, big, huge pictures on a website, are really going to pull back and not work well in a mobile first environment. So the things we're used to, being able to put giant sliders everywhere, those things are going to change. Not going to want to have 5 huge sliders rotating one after another, especially on the mobile side. On the mobile side, the sliders just can't exist, those big giant images. Next is 3D, or creating extra depth, exaggerated shadows. You really want things to look like they're coming off of the screen, that you could touch or grab them. Using exaggerated shadows or 3D imagery, these things can really help pop and bring images and graphics that are necessary to showcase something important off the screen. In addition to that, animations and movement, having things transition, having parallax, where a color stays as a background as the screen slides over it. It remains static behind a screen, so it has this 3D look to it. Animations, animated videos, movement. If you hover or on hover, something changes color or pops out at you, or has a glow or a shadow around it. Those things can really make a site look good without taking a lot of space, hard drive space, as far as disk space, making the site heavy. You want to keep the site as lightweight as possible. Patterns, texture versus background images. Patterns and texture, that also allows you to add an element to the backdrop of element or a container on the page without the giant background image. So something that's a repeatable chunk of code versus an installed or uploaded image is going to help with that site speed, and it's really going to satisfy the mobile first requirements. And ultimately, you want the design, when somebody gets there, you want them to know that you're tech savvy, that you're loved by many, that you're social. That means you're trustworthy and that you're authentic and you're out there, that you're local, and that you're authoritative. So we'll get into content as well. When it comes down to design, it's not just your website. Also, it's logos. When you have a logo design, stay away from having a friend create a clip art graphic. Really want to have a logo that's designed, that's responsive as well. You need to be able to use this logo in many different environments, and you want the logo to be recognizable no matter where it is. As you'll notice in all these examples, depending on what medium that these businesses are marketing their business in, they may use a larger logo with more depth and information, a more subtle with less contextual or imagery behind it. They may use just a name, or they may use just an icon. And all of these things need to be recognizable, but this is really the palette of what a logo design in a responsive and mobile first environment should look like, and it's worth putting the time into it and having it done right. This logo is going to last forever. Now, getting into a website. When you land on a website, and I'm showing, this is the PC view of this particular site. This is what it looks like on a mobile device. So things that are really important. One, clear call to actions. So in the PC environment, I know I've covered these things a lot, and luckily our design style has been focused on mobile responsive and mobile first initiative for over a year. So even a lot of our work that's been done in the last 12 months has been compliant in many ways. So clear calls to action. Consumers need to know who you are, what you do, where you do it, how to reach you, 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 how to reach you. What do other people think about you? And are you social? So without moving on this, and I promise you this site has a whole bunch more behind it, but without moving, everything that a consumer needs to know, including the relevant image of the Seattle skyline and the mountain behind it, everything makes sense. When somebody lands on this site, they know they're in the right place. Now, if they happen to find the site on a mobile device, again, we have to have that same kind of response where someone knows who they are, where they are. They have easy click-to-call buttons, and anything that's really critical, such as schedule service, request an estimate, troubleshoot your issue, click-to-call, and then your menu items are typically going to be defined. They call it a hamburger line, but it's these 3 lines here, and these 3 lines here are going to help depict those are menu items, so it allows people to navigate the site. You also have the quick link to Google, pin it, the ability to chat. We have a link to Yelp as well as their Facebook page. Another example, when you get into the body of your homepage, if you've got multiple services that you need to showcase and you can't do it in a geometric grid where you have 4 boxes side by side, say you have 5 or 6 or 7, maybe you do air conditioning, heating, and solar, and plumbing, and indoor air quality, and refrigeration, and electrical, maybe you have a lot of different services. Another way that that can be done is with the geometric grid. You still have the ability to easily make this responsive. You can showcase a lot of information by containerizing these items. And you can also reference different services with numbers or letters or images, pictures, as well as a little excerpt of content. When you take this on a full site and you stretch it here into or I should say shrink it into a mobile site, we're able to easily stack each container in order in a mobile environment. So it's really easy for somebody to sift through and click on any one of those individual items as they're scrolling through that site. So geometric grid is a great way to display a lot of information. Maybe you have case studies or before and after images, or you have product overviews, or you have featured products if you have an e-commerce, or lots of services that you need to highlight. This is a great way to do that. Now, who we serve. So if you have multiple audiences, and these are real, true, totally different target audiences, such as residential, commercial, light commercial, new construction, multifamily, rural, maybe you serve different professions. Maybe you do a lot of work with the wineries or medical offices, then you can do the same thing here. This is a 1/3 by 1/3 by 1/3, still has 3 containers, and it has a looped image behind it so it doesn't take too much space. And this site, again, when you shrink this down into a mobile, the things that are very clear: who we are, what we do, where we do it, how to reach you, the services are listed here. Also, we have the trust factor. So A plus, as well as the top voted company. Those are important for trust figures to get somebody to convert faster. And then finally on this site, you're going to see this becomes really popular in 2018. It's on the development list, not the design list, but you'll notice a chatbot here. And these chatbots giving somebody the ability to quickly pull something up, find it on a mobile phone or on a PC or tablet, and be able to chat with somebody live, ask questions. You know, you got to think about your consumers. If they're at work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, like you are, the ability for them to just pick up the phone and place a phone call, you're looking at a really small percentage of the population that has the ability to pick up the phone Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and just set all of the appointments and take care of all their personal kind of honey to-do list from home. You got to make it easy. They can, however, be sitting in a meeting waiting for the boss to walk in, and they can be on a chat bot talking to somebody and scheduling an appointment or scheduling something directly from the website using a button like this. Next, engagement. This is also a great example of these geometric grid layouts. This heading for this area on here is actually an animated video. So you have the nighttime, the stars. These guys happen to be in the mountains in California, and the mountains and the stars, and there's shooting stars coming over. So it really brings a nice element and making people feel at home. This is a great place for stargazing in addition to all of the services that they provide as well. And you'll notice with this one, we took the geometric elements and extended them from the brand and the logo. So you'll see the brand and logo have these same kind of geometric grid elements. And taking these elements and stretching them through the design of the site to bring this same kind of clean lines and structure to the site really makes a difference, make things stand out. And in addition to that, of course, we're using these grid layouts to make sure that the information is crystal clear, clean, and consumers can easily get to it on both a mobile device as well as a PC or tablet. In addition to that, we're not messing around with a bunch of content or messy. You got to read 10 miles of content in order to figure out the important information. Knowing what's important to the consumer versus what's important to you. So it might be important to you to have your testimonial and a video message from the owner, maybe an article of you being posted on the news or your last radio commercial. Those things are important to you, but when it boils down to what's important to the consumer, again, who you are, what you do, where you do it, how to reach you. In the HVAC world, it's, do you have financing available? Why do I want a new system, and how can I really save the most money? Is there a maintenance plan available? What kind of promotions are there? Are there any special promotions that may not be public on the website that I could possibly sign up for? So what's your phone number? Are you in my area? Do other people love you? Do you have a good reputation? Those are all the things that are most important to consumers. Can you fix my problem? So in each one of these designs, just giving you an idea of the view on a mobile device, when you shrink the site down, it has to be extremely clear with those most important buttons or call to action buttons being prominently displayed. A lot of times what I'll see on sites is I see kind of a general suggestion, like learn more, read more, instead of view our plans, apply for financing, schedule service, make a payment, sign up for maintenance. You need to be very, very clear and instructive instead of making them always read more, read more. It's almost a pain for people when they go to a site and they feel like, I don't want to read a 6-page article. I just want to get to the meat of things. This is what I need. I want to get signed up for a maintenance plan. I don't have time to take care of this stuff at home. Or I want to go to Hawaii. My husband wants a new heat pump or air conditioner. I want to apply for financing so we can do both. Or I'm a current client of yours. Make it easy for me to schedule service. Or I want a new system. I want to request an estimate. I want to get pricing. I want to know what I can apply for. So again, very clear and directive buttons. You'll notice the shading on this one. On these one, on hover, the buttons actually stand out. They pop off the screen and they change colors. Those are things that are important in a responsive first or a mobile first environment as well. All right, so a lot of times I'll see, as I mentioned before, kind of this lengthy about us. We have to remember they're not necessarily interested in your story. So while this isn't really about the mobile first design, it is in layout. We have to think from a consumer standpoint, what's important to them? You know, what do you do that's different? Not great service, but how are you going to help them? How do you stand out from all of the other options that they have available? So I happen to love this site for Barron's. Their tagline, improving lives by focusing on healthy, safe, and efficient comfort solutions and energy systems, 100% satisfaction every time. They're committed, and they can see that 5-star review. They're actually asking for the 5-star review before they even get the business, which I love it. They're referring to it again over and over again. They're offering 5-star customer service. My job is to do 5-star work on your house. I'm trying to get 5-star performance rating from you. They're pre-programming consumers to think in advance, this is a 5-star rated company, and I have an obligation to also leave in a 5-star. Why that's important, we'll get into it in the webinar when we talk about reviews and marketing and so forth. But this is really critical. I love this design. It's really easy and it shapes nice. When we're looking at it on a mobile device, you simply have 3 lines on top of each other. This video scrolls underneath, is playable on a mobile device, so it makes it really easy and clean to be able to showcase this information without having to read a lot of text. On the same site, same thing as far as the grid layout, and they've really stayed away of having too many images or big background images everywhere. They have a scroll bar which makes this section of the site more dynamic, more interactive. They can actually scroll through, so they have a lot of different services and products that they offer, and you can easily scroll through these with these little arrows. So that's another great way to contain content on a homepage is to have these arrows that somebody can just scroll through, and then on hover, as soon as you hover on the thing that's important to you, then you're going to get a little excerpt of that information, and you can do a read more or schedule or request a quote, schedule an installation, buy a new system, apply for financing, sign up for maintenance. All of these have different call to actions. In addition to that, keeping the site engaging using things like quizzes, assessments, polls, troubleshooters, really engaging the client so they stick around longer on the site and they really see that you're trying to add value and do more than just sell them something. Things like a troubleshooter is going to help do that, along with the SARE calculator, different kinds of polls, quizzes, and assessments. And this is a full width container that will shrink down. This shrinks really small right above it. This shrinks down, and they can actually use this entire system, troubleshooting system, on a mobile device. Really clean and easy. As well as these boxes, because they're in this grid format, they just stack on top of each other as it shrinks down. So if I shrink it to a tablet, you're going to have 2 above 2. If I shrink it to a cell phone, you're going to have 1 over the other, over the other, over the other. Another section that's really important is going to be where we work, or where do you do it? What services are provided in what cities? So this is a combined effort. Number one, we have the map, and on that map there's all these checkpoints that have reviews attached to them, and then we've listed each of the service areas. Now, why this is important: every one of these service areas is tied to a page of content that only has the reviews for the services provided in that area. So you've got relevant content cleanly displayed on a web page, tied to the individual cities that you want to do business in or have done business in, and it's easy for someone to navigate both from a mobile device as well as from a PC. Now, if this was only in the drop-down area up here on a mobile device, that's going to get really hard because this is a really long list. In fact, this list has doubled since I did this presentation. So there's a lot more cities on here. You can display those cities on a mobile device on the home page in a container that has stackable containers, whereas if it's only in the navigation, that's going to be more difficult. Again, staying with being interactive, polls, movement, transitions, call to actions. This is another way you can use a toggle switch to have each of the things that are most important, or those standout things, if you want to have a special promotion, if you want to have an energy savings audit, or an energy audit, or a free estimate, or tune-ups or maintenance specials. Those are all things you can do and have those showcased. So you can showcase a lot of different information in something that scrolls left to right and give the consumer something to click on, so it makes them feel interactive again. Now, when we get into this newsletter sign up, I see a lot of newsletter signups on sites. What I don't like is when it just says sign up for a newsletter. Like the average Joe Blow is going to sign up for an HVAC newsletter. It's probably not likely to happen, but this is a perfect display. Get up to $200 in savings. Sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive offers, plus air conditioning and heating system help and tips. Submit your information, and boom, now they're on a list. Now what happens is when this is submitted, they're going to receive an email, and the first thing they get is a discount code that they can use on the new installation of a new heating or air conditioning system. So, and it changes throughout the year based on the different seasons. They have different promotions, so it's up to, so they can have something like, receive $50 off your next service call or something like that, or pass this $50 discount to a friend or family member who may need help. So you can also use it for referral rewards programs. They can either use it themselves or they can refer a friend. The perfect footer. When it comes down to creating a footer, you also want to stay in those containers. When someone is at the bottom of your website, the very footer of the site, There's critical elements that are required by Google for validation as a part of the overall mobile first plan, but they've also been a requirement for a really long time, so they're not new. Your address needs to be visibly on the site, and it needs to be coded with something called structured data, which you'll see in the development cycle. You also need to have it linked to your Google business listing or Google Maps account. That's important. Making sure that if you are required to have a license number, your license number is clear. What credit cards do you take? Now, this section right here, 5-star service, 91 reviews, and you're going to see this review us over here. Structured data is a really important and critical element of the mobile first initiative. You got to have it on your sites. We were recommending and making recommendations that everybody had their sites recoded with structured data or schema coding. Now it's not a recommendation, it's something that's just got to get done. So the benefit to this is really you're able to acquire reviews directly on your website. And I'll show you how those reviews are showcased on a Google search so that you can actually increase your overall conversions online. So part of this is design. It's required to be in the footer. Part of it is development. This actually requires a pretty significant coding change. And part of it is marketing. How do you increase your conversions? So all of these things play into growing a business. Making sure you have links to your social media accounts, your copyright, your privacy policy, the legal things that need to be on your site. And then if you have specific call to actions such as we're hiring, maintenance plan, financing options, schedule service request estimates, all of those things can also go into the design or layout in a footer environment as well. It should function technically as its own website. So right now, all of your web companies should be talking to you about mobile first indexing. Why? Because they got to redevelop everything. Everything that they did before has changed. From a development standpoint, first and foremost, your site's got to be secure. If it doesn't say https://www.blank.com, if that's not your website address, then you're not set up on the server correctly, your site is not secure, you're going to have issues when it comes to passing the security. In fact, not only is that the case, there's actually a little icon with an exclamation mark on your computer's browser when you go to your website that if you click on it, it specifically says, this site is not secure. We don't recommend putting in any sensitive information into forms. So it's actually a deterrent for getting people to convert. In addition, the days of having a website on a $5 GoDaddy server with really slow load times, a lack of server maintenance, a lack of security, all of those things, those are gone. Having a high performance website with a significant amount of security and backups, making sure those sites are secure, every issue, malware, security threat, anything that's going on behind the scenes on a server might as well be right on the front of your website because those are going to impact your site's performance as far as mobile first. Also, load times. A lot of load time issues are affected by the server itself, but a lot of them can be design as well. If you are requiring your web company or your web company is recommending that you have a tremendous amount of these big heavy images, custom code, heavy themes, free themes off of Theme Forest that are filled with bloatware and mass amounts of data. If you're using your friend to build a website and they're having to buy a pre-coded theme and they're just plugging in content, those are all things that are going to impact your overall load time. You need to be in the lightest weight website from a code standpoint and image standpoint as possible and still have a very presentable, professional, and cleanly designed website. Modularized containers in the content management system. So we talked about modular containers on the front design, but in your content management system, think of your website like a dollhouse. You have the front of the dollhouse, that's the design, and if you turn it around, You're in the back office of the website. That's a CMS or content management system. When Google starts to go through a massive change like this, the number one priority you need to be flexible and dynamic. Don't get stuck in the design and layout of the site. You need to be able to pull containers down, add containers, change containers, rip out a whole section just by removing a modularized container in the back office of the content management system. You don't want to have to call a coder in order to make these kind of changes. So that's what we've been doing for the last year. We've been developing our own version 3 of our own theme that has the least amount of code, most modularized, flexible, and dynamic application to make sure that we stay ahead of this and that we're able to easily become compliant once those rules and regulations came out. Another thing that's really important from a development standpoint, consumers are looking for things that are familiar. What's familiar to them is when they go to their bank or they go to their movie pass or their school or their work or anywhere else, they have an account. They need to have somewhere where they can maintain, and this is really for new customers that become, or new prospects that become a client, and then you want to keep them and retain those customers. Having the ability to set appointments on your website, to document conversations, to go back to those appointments that have been scheduled, documents inside an account area, really important. We have a CRM system that we install on all of our client sites because it has that functionality, and consumers love it. They love it when they go to a site and it's as easy as all the other things that they're used to on their banks and everything else that they use. Next, structured data or schema. If you like the nerd stuff, you can go to schema.org and you can type in your company HVAC and it'll give you the requirements. This is one of those things that I mentioned earlier. We've been recommending it, telling people now's the time. And that was in advance of the requirements. Now it's really the time. So making sure that your site is pre-programmed with structured data schema and that you have the ability to accept reviews and display them with schematic markup on your website. Incredibly important. A, for compliance requirements, B, for visual presentation, C, for new content on your site by city, and D, because it's going to help you convert more clients. Accelerated mobile pages, also known as AMP. You can see that online at ampproject.org. That's another one we've been stressing and pushing and trying to get people to implement this, knowing that it was going to become or be adopted as a standard. It is a standard now, so all of our pushing and prodding and trying to make people ahead of the game by having these things in advance, now it's time. Reducing embed code and scripts. A lot of times clients will want us to put the embed code for their Facebook page or their Twitter feed right smack on the front of the website. That is the worst thing you can do to your website. Your website literally is waiting for someone else's website to load before your site loads. So you want to avoid scripts, third-party embed codes, anything that's going to slow the site down to where you're going to see delays in your load time because of someone else's website or software. You want to keep it down to a bare minimum and get rid of these things. That's very important. One of the requirements for mobile first. Chatbots, this is an exception. So on one hand, you want to get rid of the embed codes. On the other hand, now's the time to be as interactive as possible. With chatbots, this is a great way to do that. That's the ability to have somebody go to your website and you're able to chat with them real time. Again, as I mentioned earlier, you got to make things easy. So some consumers are going to want to call, some are going to want to fill out a form, some are going to want to schedule online, some are going to want to chat, some are going to want to text, some are going to want an email. Bottom line is you got to be able to know what's most important to the consumers, make it available for all of them, and then you got to meet them where they are. It's not based on your personal likes, but it's based on the consumer's habits and likes. Same thing with scheduling online. We've talked about reviews by location. These are all things that need to be part of the development process. And again, the list of the actual mobile first requirements is huge. So everything from your CSS formats and reduced HTML and having global style sheets, not using a ton of code to make things happen in a site. There's a whole bunch of things that are way over my head sometimes, and it's just important that you have a developer that's working on your site that knows the mobile first requirements and is doing everything that they can to adhere to the majority of those requirements. Now, of course, being able to adhere to all of them would require a really big budget. So we got to prioritize based on your budget and focus on those things that are most important to get you past the initial swoop of requirements and make sure that you're able to maintain your rank and position if you're already ranked, or game on, it's time to take over someone else's rank who doesn't pay attention to this change or doesn't take action. Now, these changes are significant enough that the website community is responding quickly. WordPress is the largest content management system in the world at the moment. Might be different when you watch the video, but WordPress is adopting the requirements. They are doing it now. I believe last week, Gutenberg, which is version 5.0, was released. The way WordPress does its releases, when it's dot something, dot 1, dot 2, dot 3, those are minor releases. When you see a blank dot 0, that's a major release. In fact, the majority of the themes available in the WordPress network are not going to be compliant with Gutenberg or the mobile first requirements. It's going to take all the web designers' time, the developers' time to come up with new themes, get rid of their old themes, but they're not going to get rid of them. They're going to leave them out there, and companies that aren't as savvy with keeping up with changes are going to keep using them and keep using them. So even if you buy a brand new website tomorrow, if the company you're working with is not talking to you about the mobile first initiative, the Gutenberg release of WordPress 5.0, if they don't have their own theme that's been customized to strip out all of the garbage and only give you the things that are most important, what you need on your site, if it's not dynamic, if you can't configure it 100 different ways without hiring a developer, those are all red flags you want to keep looking. So another thing I talked about with structured data or schema, as far as development goes, this is an example, just one out of 100 different things that schematic data or structured data or schema does for you. It gives you the ability to collect reviews on your website with that little review tab I showed you and display them using schematic markup on a Google search result. So this is where not only are you following Google's requirements so you have a chance of being able to create a website with content that can be optimized so that it ranks on page 1 of Google for the things you want to sell in the cities you want to sell them, but in addition to that, you now are going to stand off the page with these rankings and reviews showcased where everyone else doesn't have it. So this is just showing you one client and their one company's ratings and reviews and how they display on searches, but surrounding them is a million other websites that don't have schematic coding, are not up to date, and are not showcasing those reviews. They, if they're on page 1 of Google for the services they want to sell in the cities they want to sell them, they're likely to win the business. AMP, just to give you a visual representation of what AMP does, when someone pulls up your blog or if they're Googling and they look up home performance assessment in Bellingham, Washington, when this page showcases on a phone using AMP, accelerated mobile pages, it's the same functionality that Facebook uses to render content instantaneously. It's going to strip all the garbage from around the site, and it's going to restructure that page with only the relevant content, and it's going to load instantaneously. It's also going to provide navigation that works easy on a cell phone. So you can go forward, you can go back to different articles, you can share it on Twitter, on Google+, on Pinterest, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. In chat, you can send a message. That's what all these share links are for. And then you'll have related articles where it's going to find things that are tagged with similar tags, and it's going to make reference to that. Now, with this change, the pro, you have content that is in compliance with Google, renders instantaneously for a consumer. All of those blogs or pages that are in your repertoire or on your website that are ranking on page 1 of Google, when a consumer clicks on it, boom, you're an option. Here's the con. All of this content essentially needs redesigned to work and convert in a mobile environment. In a web environment, you have a sidebar, and the sidebar may say schedule service, view our promotions, sign up to receive special discounts. It may have call to actions. But in a mobile environment, you just have content. So if your pages of content don't have call to actions and images embedded in the content section of the page towards the top in something that's clear and clean and clickable and readable, it's going to get missed. You're not going to get the conversion, because the only contact us that shows on an AMP page is this contact us button here. But all the other conversion things are gone because it doesn't want to show all that code in those pictures and images. So a big project, and I know it's a lengthy one for those of you that have big sites with a lot of content, but if you really want to make an impact and have your existing assets, stuff you already own, perform better, you're going to go backwards to the content you already have and do a huge swoop through that and develop call to actions. You can outsource it. We're doing that for clients that want us to do that for them. You can get it done, but you don't always want to be adding only new things. You want to take the assets and the things you might already have out there, and you want to make them better. You want to be able to use them more. So that's going to be a big change when it comes to content. Speaking of content, so the Mobile First Initiative absolutely makes changes. Having local content, by city content, critically important. Global content is not going to work. Your site has to be clearly indexed by geography, meaning that every page has to identify with the city that you want to do business in. So if you want to sell AC repair, it needs to be followed by in blank city and state. That list can get really big. So having things like the review system to acquire reviews by city to open up all those other cities, that's going to be important. Making sure that your main call to actions, if it's financing, maintenance, seasonal promotions, if those things are not just graphics on the homepage of a website anymore, they're not just graphics or call to action buttons on a sidebar on a website anymore. They have to be embedded into the text, contextual call to actions. Call to actions on the front of your website in the containers or in the grid or geometric grid format, really important. But when you get into the interior pages, and remember, those interior pages, if somebody Googles for AC repair in your city, in Bellingham, Washington, they're not going to land on your home page as the front door. They're going to land on the page called AC repair in Bellingham, Washington. The front door looks different to them. If they're on a mobile device, it's going to be stripped of all those beautiful buttons and call to actions so that it displays instantly, because people on cell phones are not patient. They're not going to wait. They won't wait as long as they will for a website. So you are kind of at a quandary.
Everything you already have needs to be revisited, restructured, rethought out. We have clients that want to stay ahead of the mobile first initiative, and we've been working on this with them for months and months. Is going back through their website, embedding call to actions on all the pages, really making it so that all of the existing assets that were already and are already performing in a web or PC environment are also going to perform in a mobile environment. And this is really, really important for you to continue to grow and continue to utilize these as assets that help you generate more business. Other things that will help in a mobile environment, people love taking polls and quizzes and doing short assessments, not long. Their attention spans are pretty short when it comes to a mobile. So on a website, you may be able to get away with a long form that says free estimate or get an estimate, and it can be a long form, and they're willing to give you lots of information. In a mobile environment, they are not. So we need to keep them really short, but people love filling out information. They love clicking polls and quizzes, and it keeps them engaged. So those are important. Also, things that are important is pictures such as comparisons, charts, memes, things they can tap on and it opens in a full width and they can still read it on a phone. So you don't want big PDFs that they can't view, but having smaller graphics and images that tell a story or explain a process or show the guarantee or show your work, or give a promotion or explain financing options in a little chart, or explain rebates or discounts or energy saving discounts or tax credits inside those images. Charts or comparisons are going to be really important. Same thing with free estimates, scheduling repairs, troubleshooting. Also budgeting, pricing, flat rate. Again, it boils down to what do consumers want to know. They want to know the basics. Who you are, what do you do, where do you do it, how do I reach you, what do other people think of you, how much does it cost, what's the process, can I get financing, can I schedule online with you? All of these things that are simple. So when we're doing strategy sessions, it's always interesting when I'm doing a coaching session with someone, because I'll ask them, I asked a college, I had them make a list for me of all the things on the front of their website. And it was like press releases and board memos and all this stuff. And then I asked visitors who are looking to choose a college to tell me, what are they looking for? And the lists were opposite, complete opposite. So we've done this with every industry in the HVAC industry. The consumer list, totally different than typically what you're going to see coming from the owner of the business. This is an example. So on a homepage, we may see a long section about us, talking about our family and its passed down generations and so forth, something that could have been done in a video, a big contact us button, a giant logo, which it's really important to you, not as important to them, pictures of products all over, generalized services like HVAC services or heating and air conditioning, radio ads playlists, video ads playlists, random pictures, learn more, read more, blogs, the term testimonials, which from a consumer side, if it says testimonials, they know you wrote it yourself. Consumers will say, I don't trust testimonials. They do look at reviews, embedded reviews, where you can actually see more information. Now, what's in common? They want to know what company name is. Consumer needs are different. They have a specific service needed that ties to a problem that they have. Again, AC repair, AC service, AC installation, AC replacement, AC maintenance, AC tune-up, AC inspection if I'm a realtor. A specific service needed. They want to be able to schedule service even if they're sitting in their boss's office at a parking light, in a meeting, where they're trying not to pay attention and just check off that honey to-do list. They want to be able to schedule service at 2 in the morning when they wake up and remember, shoot, I was supposed to do this today. Financing, get an estimate. They want to be able to pay their bill, sign up for a maintenance plan online, put in their credit card and just let you charge it. Pricing, they want to click to call phone number. They want to know the process. What's it going to take? Service areas. They want to be able to troubleshoot it. I don't know if I need repair or a new system, what's going to tell me if I need one? They want to know not just promotions available to everybody, but is there a way I can get to special promotions? They want real local reviews. They want to know, are you licensed and bonded, insured, all of the things that are important as far as trust. So there's always a difference in between what the company says they think they want and what consumers think they want. We need to get more over into thinking through, what does the consumer really want to get to, and is that information available in clean, clear environment on a mobile device and on a PC search. New SEO. So part of this mobile first change is, and I'll get more into this when we talk about this change, the mobile first initiative, in a couple weeks. But basically everything that's been done for SEO has got to be either redone if a company was not doing it right to begin with, or didn't change 2 years ago when they said that it should change, or it needs to be added to. In our world, we just need to add to it. First, all sites have to be HTTPS. We don't launch a site that's not, and haven't for a year. When it said it's coming, we take it till we make sure it's done then. Maintain and develop high quality mobile content. Mobile content is different than PC content. This is a stressor because everybody's already stressed about creating content for web and PC searches, let alone, ugh, I gotta have content for a mobile search. Increasing metadata. Those are titles, descriptions. We just went from 141 characters to 356 characters, I believe. That's massive. If you can imagine, in our world, we have millions of pages that need to have all the metadata restructured to front load the key phrases, have longer descriptions on every single website. It's huge. So that's something you're going to want to budget in more time and more resources for increased SEO in a mobile first environment. SEO metadata changes. I talked about restructuring pages with content call to actions. That's important. Shorter page titles, fewer big images, load times, and no hidden pages, making sure you have a robots file, a sitemap, and that no one lands on your sitemap if they're on a mobile device. So SEO is going to change. It's a big one. In a nutshell, it's time to evolve. The switch to mobile first isn't only responsive to behavioral changes, it's the majority of searches. Naturally, businesses should position themselves where the business is. But in this case, the shift is not only due to the maturation of the mobile market, but the pending emergence of new ones, the AI devices. Wearable technology, human augmentation, big data, interconnectivity, VR, voice control, cognitive intelligence searches such as Telefonic's Aurora project are just some of the advances towards the fourth platform. It is this that Google is preparing for. The move to mobile first will allow Google to shed the restrictions of obsolete algorithms, which you may have one from, and achieve simpler routes to advertising on new channels, which will benefit in the long run. It's a big evolution. It's a big change. The global digital snapshot, total population, this is January of 2017. Total population, 7.4 billion. Internet users, 3.7 billion. Active social media users, 2.7 billion. Unique mobile users, 4.9 billion. Active mobile social users, 2.5 billion. The difference between these is showing you how much people are using their mobile phones for their day-to-day business, for their relevant searches. It's not just Facebook and Twitter. So the pros to the mobile first initiative: content is prioritized above everything else. It allows you to create a user experience that favors mobile devices, decreases download times of the most important aspects of your website, and it offers a standardized experience on all platforms. The cons: requires a lot of time and effort to develop from scratch, requires a team that understands the inherent differences of this approach, the new work, new coding, new design, new content, new SEO methods that are necessary in order to meet the requirements. And companies have to plan more budgets, resources, and time to be able to become and stay compliant in this environment. Those who do, they will win. The now old version, some people just got mobile responsive. I just talked to a gentleman that said he just went live with a website that's mobile responsive yesterday. He didn't have a mobile responsive website. Problem is, mobile responsive is dead. Now it's mobile first, which means you have to design and develop the content and the code and the overall design for a mobile phone first. That mobile phone needs to stretch to a tablet, which needs to be able to stretch to a PC. But all your coding is done in this environment first. It's not about making a website shrink to a mobile phone. It's about designing for the mobile phone and making it have the ability to expand to a website. Why is it important? 1, it's a requirement. It's Google's mobile first initiative. 2, we know how consumers search. They go online, they do a search, they look on the organic listing, top 10 on Google. They find a website. If the website looks good, professional, they can see who they are, what they do, where they do it. On a mobile phone or a PC or a tablet or by talking to an AI device, then they'll go check out their reviews. If the website or the mobile phone displays anything that looks bad or indifferent, the consumers simply keep searching. And they can because they have a lot of options. In our world, businesses are either in one of 2 buckets. Graceful degradation. They don't want to change. They don't want to reinvest. They are stuck in what I did yesterday, or I just did this a month ago, or this isn't a priority. Or they are in progressive enhancement. Those who are in the progressive enhancement, they will rule online. They will take over and own those positions. So that being said, I want to introduce you to my father and my son. This is my dad, Kevin, and this is my son, Terrell. Both of them are on the same roller coaster. It's scary. There's pros, it's fun. There's scaries. His stomach, is in his throat. Okay. The difference is my dad chooses in every negative environment, every scary environment, he chooses to find the camera and smile. He chooses to smile through the ride. My son has not made that choice yet. He lets his natural human reaction of fear take over. We all have that choice in every environment. For you guys, I hope that this is exciting, that you don't see this as a drain or exhausting or stressful. I hope that you see this as a huge opportunity to take advantage of a big change, knowing that a lot of companies will not make the change, and you will have an opportunity to take over rankings and placement in a huge way compared to what everybody else is doing, or if they're not being advised properly, or if they just don't make the decision. You guys, we would love to help give you a strategy session and give you some ideas on what you need to focus on. Of course, we'll be looking at the entire 12-step roadmap in the right order and give you some advice and help you guys really understand what is important. Do you need a new website, new design, new development, or are you comfortable in what you are? And with that, you guys will be able to prioritize and make decisions on how to address this one step at a time. Please feel free to sign up for a free strategy session. You can do so by shooting an email to sales@ciwebgroup.com. You can visit ciwebgroup.com and just click on the schedule a strategy session, bottom right hand corner, where it says contact us. Or you can call us directly at 877-839-1122. I hope this is helpful. And again, I thank all of you for taking the time to attend the webinar. And I look forward to seeing all of your transitions to mobile first. Thanks again.